Hey mama, I polled my 415,000 followers and asked them, what type of birth class do you want? And they told me we want something simple that we can listen to on the go, whether you're nesting, you're walking, or just trying to rest. So I created the Calm Labor Birth Pod. It is my audio-only birth class designed for real life. So if you're pregnant, you're overwhelmed by all the what ifs, you don't need to Google. You just need calm, evidence-based guidance from a labor nurse. You can listen on the go. It's $97, or you can start today for just $33. Go to labornursemama.com/guide or hit the link in the show notes to grab it. Ever wondered if it really matters when your baby starts crawling, or what to do if they're not? In today's episode, I'm sitting down with Dr. Allison. She is a pediatric physical therapist, a twin mama, she's got 4 kids, and founder of the TOT Spot. She's worked with hundreds of families to support babies who just aren't meeting their motor milestones, have low tone, or just seem stuck. We're going to dive into why crawling is more than just a milestone. This was new to me, you guys. And apparently it's a foundational for sensory and motor development, and how to navigate some red flags and take early action. So listen into this episode because it really is going to give you some valuable wisdom about your baby's development. Good morning, you guys. Today's guest is Dr. Allison. She's a physical therapist, and she is a mom to 4, 2 boys, 2 girls, half and half. She also has twins, which I'm interested to hear who the twins are of those babies. And we are going to have an amazing conversation. And she is all about child development. I'm so excited about this conversation. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. And yes, I wear both hats that often overlap as a physical therapist. That's what I'm trained in. And I love working with kids. And also I come from the mom end of being a mom of 4. And yes, 2 boys, 2 girls, but my twins are the firstborns, and they are boy-girl twins. And then I have a boy, and then I have a girl. So it's like a nice, technically my oldest is a girl. Then her brother was a minute later. Then 2 years later, I had my second boy, and then my youngest. It was 4 kids within 5.5 years. Actually, it was
I've been there and done that.
Yeah, right. How many kids do you have?
I have 7.
7 kids. Wow. Okay, you put me to shame.
But my last one is way there's a big distance. He's the only one at home, so. Now.
Yes. And my kids have gotten very big. My twins just turned 14. My second one or my third technically, just turned 12 yesterday. And then I have an 8.5-year-old. So we're out of the baby stage, but I still immerse myself in the baby toddler stage because that's where I really focus my work.
I love that. So I would love to just hear how you narrowed down to that, specific of a niche with child development, and where your passion comes from that, and just what moms need to know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Such a packed question, right?
Yeah. It's
so much to unpack. So much to unpack.
Yeah.
And so when I went into physical therapy, I always loved working with kids. Like, I was always the camp counselor, and I babysat, and I did all those kind of things with kids as I was a teenager growing up. And when I went and I was thinking about what I wanted to do career-wise, I ended up finding physical therapy. And really, even in grad school, I knew that kids was where I wanted to really be. And so coming out of grad school, I worked a tiny bit in outpatient, and then I went straight to kids. I'm like, this is not for me. I want to work with kids. And I actually started out in a sensory gym, and I went into the school setting, and eventually focusing on babies. But I've worked with everything from newborns through maybe age 11, 12, the early preteen. And so I've run the full gamut. In my more recent years, I've gone much more, dove very heavy into the baby field. And there's so many reasons for that. One is it's really the foundation. This is the beginning. This is the start. And I think when I was in the school system for 7 years, I would do an intake. I would ask parents about early history. And so many of the children who struggled with certain things in school had missed their early milestones. And so I felt like it's so important for us to get in there and educate parents and make sure our babies are meeting very important, critical early milestones so they're really set up for success for later on. And so I ended up going more into the baby area. I love it. And I think that there's a big gap there because there's not a lot of, either so much information or not enough information. It's a little bit of both, right? Where the parents are like overwhelmed with so many different areas, but not a lot in this specific area. And so I love to educate parents and really bring to the forefront how important these milestones are.
I love that so much. So tell me, like, what are some things that moms need to know that are like, you need to know this, and this is really important? Because it sounds to me like when you were working with the kids in the school system, there were things that were missed. Are there things that were missed by professionals or parents and professionals?
Yeah. So there are a few different things that we can touch on, certainly. And I'll specifically say to that in terms of those children in, kindergarten, around preschool, kindergarten, first grade, who now are struggling with their pencil grasp. They can't cut easily on the line. They fatigue quickly with coloring. Maybe they're also fatiguing on the playground and they can't keep up with their friends. They can't do the monkey bars, things like that, in all different areas that kids need to be successful in preschool and kindergarten. Maybe they're falling on their friends when they're sitting in circle time. They can't sit up straight. They're constantly touching things around them. Okay, these are all things that when kids get to preschool, kindergarten, first grade, they need to do, right? However, a lot of those kids did struggle. They didn't crawl. That is one of the big ones. They never crawled.
Wow.
Yes, right? It's amazing. Or they did some compensating sort of crawl, right? So they either never crawled, they went straight to walking. Maybe they just sat and they were just comfortable sitting and then they went straight to walking. Or they were stuck in army crawling where their bellies are in constant contact with the floor. Or they were butt scooters, something like that, where they never crawled. And that really was a very consistent thing that we saw in the school setting, that a lot of those kids missing those skills I just described were missing, that there was a big gap there in their early development.
So when the parents went to the pediatricians for that, because they probably did, what were they told?
Yeah, so really good question. And a lot of times, and I hear this all the time now, that parents go to the pediatrician and they're noticing my baby isn't rolling yet. I don't know if I should worry about that. Or my baby is, only army crawling, not crawling. They're doing some funny movement, right? And a lot of times they will hear, wait and see. Wait and see, wait and see. Don't worry about it. Not all babies do these milestones. Okay. Eventually your baby will walk. Don't worry about it. Now, I don't love to, knock on pediatricians because I think that it's very hard for pediatricians. They have to know so much about everything. Right?
Yeah, it is hard. Yeah,
exactly. You're going to your pediatrician and you're talking about feeding and weight and baby's head size and all these other things, diaper rashes, ear infections, all the things that a pediatrician has to know about. And they're not motor development specialists, right? And so their perspective often is the case is as long as baby can get from point A to point B eventually, doesn't matter how they get there, right? Doesn't matter how. And really the challenge is also then, if a parent with a 5-year-old goes to the pediatrician and says, my baby's struggling in school my child is struggling in school. They're not cutting. They're falling on their friends. They might refer them out to service. Check with the school system for services in school. They're not always going back and remembering, hey, when that child was 9 months old, did they crawl? They don't often, right? It's now 4.5 years later. They're not necessarily thinking back. They're not going back in their notes 4.5 years prior to say, did this child crawl? But for somebody like me, a PT in the school system, I am asking those questions, right? I am making those connections. And that's where, it's not necessarily something that pediatricians always talk about, reflect on, think about. And so when a parent does come to them with a concern, it's not necessarily it's not their area of expertise, right? And so they're not necessarily, going to jump at that. There are many pediatricians who do, they refer out, they say, go for an evaluation, go for services, but so often they're not. And it's really unfortunate because we have this key opportunity during this early development period to make sure our babies do these movements, right? One of the things about crawling is that it's the last opportunity for us to weight bear through our arms, right? And once we stand up, we are walking around and we aren't getting all that strength that we need in our shoulders. So this really begs the question, well, what is the connection between crawling and all the skills I mentioned, right? Why, what actually, I don't think I even mentioned that yet, which is what's the connection, right?
Yeah. Why does it matter?
Right. Why does it matter? So these kids didn't crawl. What does that have to do with all these skills I mentioned? Well, crawling offers a tremendous amount of opportunity for strengthening, right? So I just mentioned that shoulder strength, this is the last chance that babies are really, weight bearing through their shoulders, through their arms, developing their hand strength, and all of that strength. It's like math, it builds on each other. And so if they miss out on this key time to strengthen up their muscles, this is when they are later on going to struggle with some of those fine motor skills that actually need a lot of arm strength, the shoulder strength that they need for those fine motor skills, or self-dressing skills like buttoning and zippering, things like that.
Okay.
So another area also that crawling and rolling in these early milestone support is sensory development, where babies are getting a lot of deep input through their joints, developing a lot of body awareness, which helps kids maintain personal space, not touch all their friends in a circle time, not fall on their friends. They can actually maintain good posture when they're sitting at their desk and not fall over, not fatigue. And so these are really, really critical things about crawling that support higher level skills in school.
Okay, so these things that you're saying that's happening in kindergarten, are they being associated with physical things or behavior things?
That's a really good question. Yeah.
Because I'm wondering if teachers think they're not staying out of someone's space, that would make your mind think it's a behavioral thing.
Yes, yes. And it is actually a very common thing that happens, right, in those preschool, kindergarten classrooms where it's like, stop touching your friend, right?
Keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah. And so to delve in a little bit more to that and the sensory piece and to like unpack that a little bit is, we have the senses that we all know about, right? The sight, touch, hearing, things like that, right? We all know about the 5 senses, but the additional senses that are not as well known are proprioception and vestibular. The proprioceptive sense is what is body awareness, is, where is my body in space? And if I close my eyes, I know where my hand is. I know that my toes are wiggling, right? But children don't have that. It has to develop over time. And the way that sense develops is through a lot of deep pressure through the joints of the body, which is what crawling offers us, right?
Yeah.
And the vestibular sense helps us with balance. And the way that develops is when the head moves in different ways against gravity, which is what rolling and crawling provide us. And so this is when later on, when we need to sit up with good balance. We want to make sure that we are maintaining our personal space. If kids don't have that internal awareness of personal space, they're going to find it from their surroundings, right? They're going to touch every bulletin board as they walk down the hall. They're going to touch their friends. They're going to touch everything else. And so this is a really important part of that early development that gives us that body awareness so that, again, it's normal for kids to fall on things and touch things. There's a range of normal. They're still developing it. But this is a very, very important foundational element in order to help them later on. And so you're right that sometimes those kids that are constantly wiggling, they can't even sit in a chair. They'll fall off their chair in kindergarten. There are those kids. And it's actually because they're lacking body awareness. They don't know where their body is in space. And so they can't contain themselves without touching everything around them or having very hard sitting in a chair with armrests or something that will contain them. Because just sitting on the floor, they fall over. They don't know where their body is in space. They actually can't feel their body.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So what they really need is to be referred to you when they're not crawling.
Yes, yes. And so that's really what we want is when we're starting to see, and this is really goes back to your question of like, what should parents know early on, right? So this is like, we're delving into like why these milestones are important, right? But for parents of babies, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. We like to worry about a lot of things, but it's hard to worry about kindergarten when you have a 9-month-old, right? You're like, I'm thinking about so many other things. I can't think about kindergarten just yet, right? And I totally relate to that, right? One step at a time. But what are the things that parents should really focus on in these early months, right? Which is we want to make sure that our babies are on track with development. We want to pay attention to some things to make sure that babies are continuing to make progress towards their milestones and with good quality of movement, that they're doing it the right way. And so if we delve into that a little bit deeper, there are certain milestones that there's a range of normal of what those milestones are and when babies should achieve them. And so For example, we have our tummy time and then babies have good head control. We want some good head control, but between 2 and 3 months, the babies are able to lift their heads nicely. They're propping themselves up on their forearms by 4 or 5 months. 6 months, they're starting to maybe pivot in circles. We also have rolling, which is achieved usually between 4 and 6 months, sitting 6 to 8 months, crawling 7 to 10 months, and then walking. There's a huge range of normal
Yeah.
from 10 all the way up to 15 months. And some will even say up to 18 months. And there's a huge range of normal for of walking, but all of these milestones, we want babies to meet them within the range of normal, but any time in that range is acceptable, right? If your baby isn't meeting the same milestone as your neighbor's baby at the exact same time, it's okay, right? It's totally fine. You don't have to panic, but you do want to pay attention to these milestone, that time frame. Is my baby on track with that development? Are they meeting those milestones within those time frames? And then there's also the quality of movement, which is baby using both sides of their body equally? Is baby rolling both to the right and to the left? Are they crawling on all fours and not scooting around on their bottoms, or crawling with one leg up in the air? Some babies do that. Or
I've seen that.
Or scoot around on their bottoms.
Or they crawl with with their legs kind of extended on their toes, like their butt in the air.
Yes, exactly. So like there's all these different variations, but the variations aren't giving us all the benefits that they need for that strong foundation that we're trying to set.
For the normal baby crawl.
Yeah, exactly.
So at what point during that window would you say that it might be wise to seek out an opinion?
Yeah. So what we want to see is continuous progress. So, and that's a really good question, because well, what if my baby is, 5 months and isn't rolling yet? Do I panic now? Do I wait till 6 months? Right? Like what do I have to, think about? And that's where we want to look at some of the mini milestones that, those are the big milestones, the major milestones. Then we have like the mini stones, right? So is your baby able to reach for their toes and play with their feet? Are they trying to reach for toys across their body? Are they trying to maybe get onto their side, but they haven't fully mastered the roll yet, right? Or for crawling, is baby pushing up through straight arms? Is baby trying to tuck their knees under? Maybe they're rocking on all fours, or they're doing like a plank sort of movement or something like that. We want to see baby trying to get towards those milestones. And if you're seeing continuous progress and you're still within the range of normal, great. And even if, your baby is 6 months exactly and your baby hasn't fully mastered rolling back to belly and they're only doing belly to back, give it an extra week or so, right? As long as you're seeing that progress that's being made, you're good. That's when I say it's okay to wait and see, another few weeks, right? We're talking about weeks at a time, that it's okay for babies to give them a little bit of leeway there. But if your baby is like lumping around, they're making no effort to move.
Or your mom instinct is saying this isn't.
Yes, like something's not right? My baby's not making any effort towards moving. Or you're noticing asymmetries or very stiff, jerky movements, or your baby feels really floppy. That's what we call low tone, is like they feel very floppy. And every time you pick them up, their arms kind of wiggle, and they feel very loose, and they're also not moving. That's when, that intuition, that mom tuition, right? Where you're like, something just doesn't feel right. And that's when I would, absolutely bring it up with your pediatrician. But if you still get that wait and see comment, you feel in your gut whether or not that feels right. But waiting and seeing, right? If I just wait another 3 months till our next appointment, but nothing's changing, right? I'm not seeing enough progress after a few more weeks. Well, that's when we really want to say, you know what? I don't need to wait and see anymore. As a parent, and you and I both know this as parents of lots of children, a parent is the best advocate for their child, right? You know your child best. Your pediatrician can have your best interest at heart, your baby's best interest at heart. But at the end of the day, you're the one who knows them best. You're the one who sees them the most often, who sees them when they're, happy and awake or sad and tired. And you're the one that's going to really know, was this just like in the doctor's office, they didn't want to perform? And so the doctor didn't see baby was naked and tired and hungry, angry and stranger danger and wasn't performing? Or is it really that they're really not making any of that progress and we really need a little bit further help?
Yeah. So that leads me to, let's say the doctor is just dismissing them, are there some things that key words or triggers that they can say to, because a lot of them have to have a referral.
Right, right. So it really depends on where you are. So here's the thing. There is I found this both as a parent and as a professional. If you push and you say, but I am worried and I need more, okay? It's not in the doctor's, it's not a negative for the doctor to refer you out. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they might say, wait and see. But if you really say like, listen, I know you're telling me to wait and see. Don't be afraid to be the quote unquote crazy mom.
To be the person.
The person, right? A lot of us feel nervous about that. At the end of the day, not in a mean way, but like you're just another patient, right? Like
I say this all the time in birth stuff. They're going to go home, they clock out, but it's your life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they go home at the end of the day, they've seen 24 patients, probably more. And like, even if they think about you as being like, oh, this worried mom that I had. Okay. So you're the worried mom. Okay.
Yeah.
You are worried. That's actually what you are in that moment. That's okay. And they go home. It is not their child. Right. And again, it's not a negative towards them. It's just maybe that moment they were like, nah, it's fine. And sometimes it is the right call for them in different things, right? You don't have to like alarm every parent about every situation, and they're balancing that. But if you are like, no. So don't be afraid, number one, to be that person, to be that mom. You don't have to worry about it. Just remember, go in and say, I need to advocate for my child. That is what I'm here for. And it's sometimes you have to like even turn on your brain, right? Like naturally you're like, no, I don't want to bother anyone. You know what? Then turn on and say, right now, I'm taking that hat off and I'm putting on the mom hat that I need or the parent hat that I need. And I'm going in and doing that. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, if you are in the United States, every state has an early intervention program that you can call and get a free evaluation. Now, it might take time to get that depending on
That's what I was wondering.
Exactly, right? And so I know like in COVID time, like you had to wait months to get an evaluation, right? Or even now I've heard from many parents, they have to wait 3 months to get an evaluation. You still have to qualify for an evaluation and then they have to set it up. So it can actually take a lot of time to get that done. Also in different states have different payment options. So like I know some states like New York, it is fully free. While where I am in New Jersey, there's like a payment scale based on your income. So it really varies state to state in what you have to pay. And then in many states, you can go to a PT directly. There is no referral. It depends on your insurance and your state. Outside of the United States is a completely different ballgame, obviously, and not one I could speak to as much, but I do know because I work with a lot of international families as well in the UK and Canada and Australia, that it could also take a very long time to get services, and even services can be very, very limited. It could be a once a month like consultation, right? And they're not actually providing ongoing services. And so I do offer an online membership for families as well that people can come to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you because I have an online membership. I have an online course. I also coach women in the motherhood parenting niche. And so a lot of my clients do online consultations, whatever their specialty is. And I think there's a misconception about the benefit of online consultations in different areas. So I'd love for you to address that, because working in the space that I work in, I realize, and I have a couple of clients who are lactation consultants, and they've had to address that misconception that it needs to be in person, but actually you're in your own habitat, and the doctor, the lactation, or in your case, you as a doctor, you're seeing them. I feel like there's a huge benefit to that as well.
It's so interesting you say that, because this is going to sound crazy, especially as a physical therapist. You feel like it's a physical thing that you need somebody hands-on with your baby. Can I tell you that since I've started my membership, I have seen more success through the membership than I have with in-person therapy, which is
that makes so much sense to me.
For me to say that. And I'm going to tell you why. It is crazy for me to say that. Number one, parents, you get immediate care. You are not now waiting an additional several weeks, months to get your baby help. And really the sooner the better. And I'm sure you would say the same thing in your practice also, right? Which is the sooner the better. And in my case with babies, I even find it more so because as they're moving through the developmental milestone, right? Every few weeks changes things, right? It changes things for the baby, new skills that they should be working on. And also a big component of it is stranger danger. And so once we have babies who are 6 months old, 8 months old, 10 months old, they don't
want to leave mom.
They don't want to leave mom, right? Or maybe the babysitter or their daycare worker, whatever it is, right? And so when I've treated in person, and I know that I know how to treat babies, but the sessions are babies crying a lot of the time, not because of anything I'm doing specifically, but they don't like
That's
me.
just what they
Because
do. Yeah.
That's what they do. They're allowed
And you
to
have the same thing on that those people who poke them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so,
Yeah.
I'm handling the baby and I'm trying to do things. And often I end up having to educate the parent anyway on what to do because we're going to get more out of the session. So number one is when we're working virtually, I find that the parent is already going to have better success because we're not dealing with all the crying, right?
Yeah.
I also find that when parents are going to sessions, that it's your baby is never going to have the perfect sleep schedule, the perfect feeding schedule, the perfect diaper schedule. So I inevitably have parents come in, they missed the nap this morning. The session's going to be a disaster, right?
Yeah.
He didn't eat well. And now it's going to be, he's crying because he's hungry. And now do we spend the time during the session feeding or not? All those kind of things. And so, this way, when we're working with parents, they can find those times that actually work in the baby schedule because every day it's actually going to be different, maybe, right? Because you don't have a good night one night or the next day is better. So that's number two. Number three is there's more consistency. When you go to a session once a week, maybe twice a week, you're going to get through early intervention, but that's very atypical. Often it's once a week. It's like going to the gym once a week versus actually doing 20 minutes of exercise every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see the same change, the same rate of success with only once a week. And so what I find is when parents join my membership and they're learning what to do themselves, I say what I want parents to do is 5 to 10 minutes twice a day. And that is going to make all the difference. And parents start seeing progress literally within days, sometimes like overnight. Start seeing such quick progress because they're able to implement the activities in short, doable amounts of time, but on a regular basis when it works for the baby's schedule. And they're seeing so much more progress. And it's not to say that some people do need more in-person care, right? This is not for everybody.
Right.
And there are many cases that in-person help is really, really important. But I find that sometimes parents will join my membership in addition to in-person therapy because they want to know. I was
wondering that as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of that. I have a lot of parents who they're doing in-person therapy, but they're like, but I need more. We need more. We're not seeing fast enough. We're not seeing it fast enough. Or I don't know what to do at home when my baby's on the floor and just playing. I want to make it useful. And so they're joining in addition to that. And and sometimes it's really taking a long time to get in-person services. And so they'll join the membership while they're waiting for the evaluation. And what's funny is sometimes by the time the evaluation comes, the child isn't qualified anymore because they've made so much progress.
Yeah.
But maybe if they do, then fine. But at least we didn't waste all this precious time where you could just be waiting for an evaluation versus hands-on and starting to implement things and seeing progress very quickly.
So let's just say they are waiting for an evaluation and they come to your membership. How does that kick off? Do you do some sort of evaluation of some kind?
Right. So the way the membership works is when you join, you get access to all my on-demand courses. So I have courses on rolling, crawling, walking, and infant massage. And so you get access, you can start watching right away, depending on where your baby's at, what milestone they're approaching. What I also have is live group Zoom calls twice a week for my members. So they can come on, anybody, and they vary at times because I'm literally accommodating a worldwide membership, which is amazing. So we try to accommodate all time zones. So it's weekly or twice a week that I host these group calls, and you can come and I give every person who joins a few minutes so they can show me a skill or they can show me their baby. And I can say, you know what? Here are the 3 activities I want you to work on this week. And I also have a message board where parents can post their questions or a video or a picture of their baby. And I can give them here's what I want you to work on right now. Yeah, feedback. And then also I do offer in addition one-to-one consults if a parent really feels like they want a full 45 minutes for me to work with them and their baby. And it's discounted for members. And this way they can get that additional support if they feel that they need that.
I love that. I love that. So then they also have each other to have community with, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's nice, because so many parents do feel stressed when, again, their niece or nephew is doing something and they were only born a week before their baby, or their neighbor's baby, or all the kids at daycare, or maybe even their older child did things so fast and they never even thought about milestones. And then the next baby, they're like, well, wait, what? Why isn't this baby moving at all? What's going on? And
then Nana is saying, oh, he's not crawling yet.
Yes. Everybody has an opinion, right? Everybody
Yeah.
comes with an opinion, and that's stressful, right? Or the mother-in-law who buys the shoes for the first birthday is like, wait, what do you mean they're not walking yet? And it's like, no, they
Yeah.
have plenty of time. They don't need to be walking by their first birthday, but it adds this stress of wait, but what's wrong, you know? And so
Yeah.
it's nice to know that you're not the only one that, I mean, a lot of times actually with my group Zoom calls, that parents will come on and they'll be listening to everybody else. And they're like, this was so fascinating. I learned so much by listening to the other parents' questions, by listening to your answers to the other parents. Like, I learned so much in this call that I now know what to do, you know, because I was
Yeah.
able to watch this other baby. I was able to, you
That
know, and
happens in my hangouts too for my
right.
pregnant moms. They hear the other person who might be 38 weeks and they're only 18 weeks and they're hearing it and navigating it. It's one of the most powerful things.
It is. It really is so powerful when you're like, no, my things are, I'm not the only one dealing with
Yeah.
this 100%.
Yeah. And then they also are getting familiar with other situations. So when they face that, they already have a library in their head too.
Exactly.
I love that.
Which is key.
So tell everyone, like, I'm assuming they can contact you for information on Instagram. Just tell everyone where they can find you and the name of your membership and all of that.
Sure. So my website is totsontarget.com. So that has, you know, everything you need to know is on there on totsontarget.com. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. My handle is totsontarget, very simple. And the membership is called the TOT Spot. And that is
I
on
love
my
that.
Yeah. And it's right on my membership. You can actually, if you're in the United States, you can use your HSA, FSA accounts for your, like the money you could put aside, pre-tax money that you can put aside. So you can use that. You can join monthly or annually. And it's a really great way to come and join and be the best advocate for your child, right? At the end of the day, we all want the best for our kids. That's just what we want. And so this is a great way to do that, to feel like you're not waiting around for anyone to give you permission to help your baby. You don't need anyone's permission. You can come join the membership today, whenever you want. It is there waiting for you. And it's so important that parents know that they have resources like us out there, right? Like
exactly.
you can take charge. You can do what you need to do for yourself and not have to ask permission, not have to wait and all that kind of stuff.
Not have to get dressed and leave the house.
Yes, that too, right? And especially like when you have to put your baby in the car and rushing and they need a diaper change. Like, it's so stressful to get out of the house. And this way you don't have to do that.
I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for coming today. It was really nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me. I love being here.
Thank you. And let me just ask really quick before we hop off, do you have any kind of like checklist or anything that you would like for us to share with our audience?
Sure. I have several free resources for your listeners. On my website, you can find a free milestone checklist, which lists all the mini and major milestones from birth. I think it goes to like 18 months. So that's a really helpful like checklist of just remembering, like, you know, if you don't remember, like, wait, what did she say about playing with toes? Like it's all in there. So that's a great one. I also have a free rolling guide, a free mini crawling course, and a free walking guide. So that's all on there on my membership. I mean, on my website, which is great to have as just like, you know, your go-to, like, let me just like delve a little bit deeper into what all these things are and what I need to know. So it's all free for the taking on totsontarget.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Mama, I hope today's conversation with Dr. Allison gave you some peace and some confidence. Remember, you are this baby's #1 advocate, and just paying attention and knowing these things ahead of time is so much power. Now, if you have a little one who's struggling to meet milestones or you're just feeling unsure, you don't have to wait or wonder. You can reach out, get support, and trust your gut. Make sure you guys follow Dr. Allison over at the TOT Spot for expert tips and resources. And if you love this episode, share it with a fellow mama who needs it. And don't forget, we are here for you for all your pregnancy, postpartum, and motherhood needs. Head to labornursemama.com/calm for the birth classes, or labornursemama.com/CMS for our mama membership. Until next time, I will see you guys again next Friday. Bye for now.